So, today I'm going to do what I said I was going to do on my last video, which was a couple of days ago now. I'm actually going to get around to doing it now. So, what I've got here is, well, obviously for starters, it's a Game Boy Color cartridge. And I have this little Pcb adapter type thing, whatever you want to call it. What this does is allows you to turn this, which is a standard Game Boy cartridge, into a flash cartridge, which you can, flash any game you want onto it using one of them or something similar. So basically all you do really is you remove the flash chip, the original one, you install the adapter in its place, and then you install a new flash chip on top of it, which can be flashed to whatever game you want to put on it. So that's what I'm going to do today. So to start with, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my soldering iron on, because that always helps. And while I'm waiting for that to warm up, I'm going to go over here and get myself a battery, a replacement battery to put in this. Now these replacement batteries are wrapped up, so I need to unwrap this first. Right, I'll do. The tabs are like bent. I think these batteries are meant for installing onto like Super Nintendo cartridges, because they're like through hole type tabs. But that's no problem. I can straighten them out easy enough, and that'll go on there nicely. I always wondered why these MBC5 carts came with CR16 batteries, because if you've ever seen, which I'm sure you have, the MBC3 carts with the real-time clock, they always come with a 2025 battery, I believe, which is obviously higher capacity. So if you can fit a 2025 battery on these carts, then why bother putting a smaller battery? I don't know. Just something I've always wondered. Anyways, I'm gonna desolder this battery first. Where are my tweezers? There they are. Right, so let's get this battery off. These batteries are probably dead now, so, yes, it's bad practice to short these batteries, but if it's dead, it's not going to hurt it. So let's get this desoldered. I'm taking this off now because I'm going to be using hot air to remove this chip. And I don't want to be blasting hot air on this when the battery's still installed, because heat and batteries don't mix well. Right, so get rid of that battery. I'm going to clean all this up in a bit. That's all we need that for now. The soldering iron. Now I need my hot air gun, which I will turn on. And I also need the tweezers again. So I'll turn it this way. So the hot air gun is set to, what have I got it set to? 350 degrees. Which is probably a tad low. Oh, actually no, it's not. It's set to 400, my mistake. 400 degrees. Which is about what you'd want to use, to be honest. So I'm just going to come in here. Just blast that with a bit hot air. Do the other side as well. This shouldn't take more than, I don't know what, 30 seconds to a minute. But you just want to go over the pins, back and forth, alternate between each side. Do that for about you know, 30-40 seconds, and then you can check it to see if it's ready to come off. Last thing you want to do when you're hot airing off a chip like this is to pry it up from the bottom. You don't want to put any pressure on it at all. Best way I find to do it is grip the sides like that, and if you can lift the cart up, then it's not ready. So I usually just hold the cart off the desk slightly, and then when the chip's ready to come off, it'll just drop. The cart will just drop back down to the desk. Like so. And that's all there is to that. Turn that off. But yeah, usually if I'm doing an MBC3 cart with the real-time clock, I'll take this chip off and put an FRAM chip on, which doesn't require any battery power to store saves. The reason I do that is because if you leave the SRAM chip, which is the original chip, on, and you have the real-time clock at the same time, that's quite a considerable amount of current draw on the battery, which is fine. You'll still get, you know, if you've ever owned Pokemon Gold, Silver and Crystal, you might notice that after 10 years or so the battery's dead and you've lost your save. But games like Pokemon Red and Blue, which don't have a real-time clock on them, similar to this, some of those are still alive to this day, the batteries on them. So the batteries last a long time, and that's because the real-time clock in the Gen 2 games, Gold and Silver, etc., the real-time clock is what draws most of the current from the battery, and you don't have those on Gen 1 games, so you don't really have to worry about the battery dying. So I don't really worry about putting FRAM on the Gen 1 games, or, you know, games that don't use a real-time clock, because it's not necessary. You're gonna get 20 years out of the battery. You know, if it's a decent enough 2032 like this, you'll get 20 years easily out of it. By which time, you know, if you've got valuable save data on your cartridge, by which time I would hope that you'll have backed it up by then. You know, whatever method you want to use to back it up. Hopefully you've done it by then. Anyways, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clean this up a little bit. I need to take all of the old solder off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to boost me iron up to 350 degrees. And I'm going to apply some flux. Now I find when you use solder braid to get rid of the old solder, I get really good results by applying flux first. Most people probably do anyways, but I just thought I'd mention it. Put flux on first, and that really helps draw the solder off the board. So I'm gonna, is it still boosted? Yes it is. I have a boost function on my iron that boosts the temperature by 50 degrees, just if I need to, you know, solder a ground plane or something similar. So I just go over these pins like so, draw as much of the solder off as I can. That'll do. Is that? Yes it is. Right, there's still a bit solder on there, so I'm going to put another drop of flux on. Not quite in shot there, I'll move it up a bit. Right, we'll just go over that again. Those last 2 pins there are being stubborn. There we go, that'll do. That's good enough. I don't want to go over them too much because it's very easy to rip pads up and damage traces and things when you're going over it like this with the braid. So I don't really want to do that too much. I don't know if you can tell, but right here, hold on, I'll get me tweezers. Right there, I've scratched the PCB just a tiny little bit. So that's why I try to avoid using braid too much on these small traces. But that's alright the way it is. Right, I want to get rid of this old solder as well on these battery contacts. And some fresh solder on them. I like to make sure things are done properly, especially if I'm doing this for somebody else other than myself. So I'll get rid of all this old solder. There's a little bit extra on there, I'll get rid of that. Right, that'll do. That is good enough. Sometimes the solder likes to be a bit stubborn and it doesn't want to come up, but that's fine. Just persevere a little bit and you'll get it up. Don't say anything. I know what you're thinking. Right, quite a lot of solder on that pad actually. There we go, that'll do. Looks a bit of a mess right now, but that's fine. I will clean that up soon. In fact, I'll clean it up now because the next part is to basically attach that. So I want to make sure it's clean first. There's my brush. Give that a bit of a squirt. Get all that flux off. It's dried pretty quick, that. Give it another squirt. Might as well wipe the entire cartridge while I'm at it. Right, let's dry that off a bit. Okay, so if you look now, that's about as clean as I'm going to get that. Yep, very nice. So, next stage. Now these, you can get these on Osh Park. I'll put a link in the description where you can get these. You can order these from Osh Park, or you can get them from, you know, places like JLC, PCB. You can get them from there. They're extremely cheap, very, very cheap. You know, you can get. I got these on JLC. You can get like, I don't know, you can get like 30 to 50 of them for less than $10. That's how cheap they are. I say dollars because I would imagine most people watching this video are going to be from the US, even though I'm from the UK. But yeah, less than $10, £10, you can get these. You can get about 50 of these. And they're great for this. I mean, I would say, because there's 2 different types of this you can get. There's an older version that has a slightly longer PCB down here, and I would recommend not getting those, because what you'll find is when you attach them, they'll stick out a little bit at the bottom, and you'll not be able to close the shell properly. You'll have to cut a little gap out of the bottom of the shell to get it to close. So make sure you get the one that's exactly like this, where there's no like little extra bit sticking off the bottom. That's just my little bit of advice for you. Now, what you'll notice is there's pins, I say pins, the pads really. Now get the light to shine. There's pads here in the corner. There's one there, and there's one on this corner, and there's one also in this corner here. These are important. Without these, this will not work. And if you look on the back of the PCB, they're labelled A21, A20, and WR, which is write enable. This pin is what allows you to write to the chip. So I always get these confused. It's A21, A20. So A20 is on the left, A21 is on the right. So when I come to wire these up, I'll have to look up the pinout on the MBC5. Just it's these two pins up here in the middle. I'm not sure which, but I'll have to look up the pinout when I get round to it. Right, so that basically, you just line that up there. I can't really see if that's lined up. I think it is. I'm going to bring in a bit closer. There we go. So I'm going to bring in there. More so for my benefit really, so I can actually see if this is lined up or not. Now it looks like it is. On the screen it looks like it is. But that's basically, this is simple. This, I mean, if you've done the SMD soldering, this is very simple. But I'll show you if you're unsure. What I like to do is tap the corner down first, if I can. I've just moved it slightly, but that's fine. There we go. So, is that lined up properly? I can't quite tell. It looks like it is, doesn't it? Yeah. That looks perfectly fine to me. So this is the fun part. This is the fun part, and it's always fun when it goes smoothly. And by smoothly, I mean like no solder bridges. So apply your flux. The more the better. And then just flood your solder in and go down like that. Let's wipe the tip off a bit. Looks like I've got one little bridge there. I think that's the bridge out. Let's double check it. Now, I can't tell for sure, but some of those look like, are they connected? Yes, they are. Okay, it's just the angle. It was just the angle and the lighting. Looked like some of them weren't connected, but I think they are. Yeah, they definitely look like they are. Just to be certain, I'm just going to give it a bit more flux, and I'm just going to go over it one more time just to try and get them to look a little bit more, try and get these joints to look a little bit more even. I think that's better. Yeah, that looks better. Cool, that's one side done. Right. That looks good. I'll just give it a double check up close, just to be sure, just to be certain. I can't actually get in close enough. Yeah, that looks fine to me, I would say. Yep, I'm happy with that. Right, so I'm just going to give that a quick wipe down. Let's get that excess flux off of there. Okay, now I need a chip, a flash chip to put on here. Everything I've used, as always, will be in the description. I'll put links in case you want to do this yourself. Okay. Now, with these chips, what you'll notice is, I'll lay it on here first, and I'll explain. Because this is probably something that will confuse a lot of people that want to try this but are new to it. What you'll notice is, in the corners, there's 2 pins in each corner that don't have any pads to solder to. These pins are actually not used by the chip itself. They're like dummy pins basically. So what you want to do is you want to cut them off, because as you can tell at the top here, they're actually in the way of these 2 pads that you're going to need later. So these 2 pins on the ends down here and at the top, you're going to need to cut these off. And the easiest way I find to do it, because my flush cutters are not the best, you know, the tips snapped on them and things like that. The easiest way I find to do it, this is a really ghetto way to do it, but I just like to just break them off myself with my fingers. So I'll just take 1 pin on the corner there, bend it up, and then just wiggle it round till it snaps off. I realise that this is not the best way to do it, but it's the best way I've found to do it. At least while I don't have a decent pair of flush cutters. So you wiggle it round enough, it'll come off like that. So you want to do that with the 2 pins on each corner. Obviously be very careful when you do this. Make sure you do the right pins. You don't want to break off any more pins than necessary, otherwise your chip will be a dud. But yeah, if you just, you know, use your nail, just bend it back and forward. I could have done this off camera, you know, ready for the video, but I wanted to show how I do this and how easy it can be, you know, to break if you don't do it properly. This one's being stubborn. There we go. But yeah, if you know, you just wiggle them back and forwards and they'll break off eventually. And your chip should look like that. Now this bottom right corner here doesn't have any pads, so you don't need technically to do this bottom corner if you don't want to. You can just leave it. But these 3 corners here at least you will have to do. Did that come off? I can't see. Yes, it did. Okay. So let's just get rid of those little pieces of leg that I've broken off there. Get rid of them. Right, so the chip is now ready to be soldered. So we'll just... Oops, and I nearly put it on the wrong way there. Drop it in place. I'm going to bring you in close again just so I can double check this is lined up properly. You gonna focus? Yep, there we go. Right, so let's get this lined up. Actually, I'm better if I do it this way. That looks like it's lined up. Almost. Yeah, that looks alright to me. So, as always, I'm just going to tack down one side. Press down on the chip to hold it in place. And then just run a bit of solder across some of the pins. As long as it's held down, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter if it looks a mess. Not right now anyways. Now, is that held in place? Yes, it is. Okay. And that looks like it's lined up. Yes, it does. So, same again, just a bit of flux. Clean my tip off a little bit. Turn it up. Apply solder to it. And a bit more flux on there. Right, I think that's good. Do I have a bridge there? I think I have one bridge there. I don't know if you can see it, but just there's a little bridge. It's not focusing because I'm zoomed in so far, but it's definitely there. There we go. I got rid of that quite nicely. Right, so we can do the other side now. Now I think those last two pins are not soldered, so I'm going to go over it again. There we go, now they're soldered. And that looks perfect to me, to my eyes. But as always, I'm going to give it a check, just to be certain. Give me a moment. Yep, that looks good to me. There's no shorts. I'll just check the other side. Yep, that looks fine. So, that's the hard part done. Now with that out of the way, Give this another clean. Like so. Give it a nice scrub. Give that a nice scrub, and next we need to connect up these two pads here to the two pins on the MBC5 chip. So to do that, what I'm going to use is, now I did have some magnet wire, there it is. I'm going to use a bit of magnet wire. I like to use magnet wire because, well, this particular magnet wire, because it's very, very thin, so you don't see it very well. And when I cut it, these cutters are horrible. And it's green, so it kind of blends in with the circuit board, which is also cool. So you want 3 pieces. I've lost the end. Where's it gone? There it is. You want 3 pieces of wire, like that. I'm just going to wrap this back up. You want 3 pieces of wire, like so. And you're going to want to tin one end, which I'll just do off camera quickly here. The good thing about magnet wire is you don't have to strip the wire like you do with, you know, normal wire. You can just melt the insulation off with your solder, so you end up with a wire that's tinned at the end like that. I don't know if you can see it very well, but you don't have to melt the you don't have to cut the insulation off. You can just melt it off with the iron. Now what you want to do is you want to tin up this pad right here. It can be a bit difficult because it's so small. It's proving to be a bit difficult. Do it from this angle. We'll try it this way. There we go. So you just want a bit of solder on there. Can't even pick the wire up, it's that small. And you want to attach your magnet wire. It's incredibly hard for me to see if this is on properly. Yes, it is. Okay. You want to attach your magnet wire like that. Right, if you give me a second, I'm going to look up the pinout for this chip. Right. We'll just open that in a new tab. Okay, so the one I've just soldered up there is I believe that's A20, which is the 4th pin along the top. So where's my tweezers there? So A20 is, I'll bring it in a little bit. A20 is 1, 2, 3, 4. This pin here is A20, and that's where this wire connects to. So you want to route your wire. The way I like to route the wire is, because I'm going to be installing a bigger battery here, I don't want the wire to be like caught under it or anything. So flatten the wire down, and I'm going to run it along to here, bend it up like that. Bend it up there like that, and then bend it round here. Can't grab it. There we go. Bend it round here like that. So I like to route my wires like that. And it's the 4th pin along, so I want to bend it like no, a little bit further than that. Bend it like that. And once you've got it routed, you can go ahead and snip off the excess. I realise you can't see this very well, I'll bring it up there. Snip off the excess. Let's get rid of that. You want to go ahead and tin the end. Just give it a couple of seconds to melt off that insulation. Like so. Now I find it's very helpful if you put a tiny bit of solder on this pin here, this 4th pin along. It's hard with this iron. Little pins like this can be difficult with an iron tip as big as mine. So you'll probably, for this, you might want to use a smaller tip, because otherwise that'll happen. You'll get a bridge, which is easy enough to remove, like so. But it's nice to avoid that anyways. So once you've got that sorted out, you're going to want to use your tweezers, bring it down in place. Trying my best to keep you in shot here. This can be extremely fiddly, especially with wire this small. There you go. So that's your first wire done. I don't know how well you can see that, but I'm going to double check it up close to make sure it's a nice connection there. And it looks like it is. Yeah, that looks good enough. Now 21 is the next pin along down here, so this pin here, that's 21. So basically you want to do the same again. I'm just going to tidy this routing up a little bit. There we go, that's better. So it's the same thing again. You just want to take a piece of wire that you've cut, tin it up, and you want to tin your pad up here. like so. Take a piece of wire and attach it. Like so. And you want to route it round here, just like the other one. Push it flat to the board, like that. Yeah, I'll do it this way. Route that round like that. Like so. Snip off your excess. Hopefully you've got better snippers than me. These ones are terrible. There we go, just make sure that's tinned up. Now, because I bridged those two pins earlier, there's already solder on this pin, so I can just go ahead, tap this pin straight down, this wire, clean my solder off a little, solder line off just a little bit more there. There we go. That's basically those two pins done. So I just want to route these wires just a little bit better than this. There we go, that'll do. That's basically all you need to do, just connect those up. The last one is this bottom one. Now this is the write enable pin. Without this you can't write to this chip. So you've got two options. That you can wire this to, I believe it's pin 3, which is the write enable pin, which this via here is connected to it. So you can wire this to here if you want to. There's also the audio pin, which is one of these pins over here. I'm not certain which one it is. I never use it personally, but you can also use that pin if you want as well. But for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to use the write enable pin, which is this via here. So I'll go ahead and tin up my piece of wire again. Put my soldering iron. Okay. Tin up this pad as well. Like that. Get tinned up nicely there. It's not bridged, is it? No, it's not. Okay. I thought it might be bridged to this end pin here that's soldered down, but it's not. It's fine. Right, so I believe it was this end of the wire. Yes, it was. Go ahead and attach that to there. Now you're going to want to tin this via up first before you do anything to it. Now to make this easier, I'm going to put a little drop of flux on it, just to make sure it takes the solder properly. Now, because it's so small, it might take a few attempts to get the solder into it. There we go. A little drop of solder in there. That's all you need. And you want to go ahead and route this wire underneath this hole. And then you just want to, as before, cut off the excess. Like so. You want to go ahead and tin it up. Let's give it a couple of seconds to melt the insulation off. There we go. Right, now I'm trying to think of the best angle to come at this from, which I think is going to be like this. And then you just want to tap that into place. Like so. And that is basically done. That's all the wiring done, at least. Now we need to install a battery, so you can keep your saves, because it ain't much use without the ability to save now, is it? Now what I like to do is, I'm going to bring it out a bit. Don't need to be so zoomed in for this. These batteries I like to use. Now I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it with these, but if these don't work, I've got a pair of pliers I can use. But basically I want to bend these pins so that they are flush with the board. Right, that's not quite flush, so I'm going to straighten that back up. Let's try that again, eh? Bend it from there. That's better. So you want to bend the pin so that it ends up flush. I mean, if you've got this type of battery, I mean, if you're buying batteries to do this, you would just buy normal tapped batteries. These are just what I had on hand. So, generally speaking, you'll probably want to skip this step. This is just because I've got these batteries in particular. But if you do have these types of batteries, you just want to go ahead and straighten out the pins as best you can. I think I'm going to need the pliers for this one, because that is being a little bit stubborn. Straighten that up slightly. There we go, that's better. So once you've got it straightened up, it should look a bit like that. But like I say, make sure you just buy tabbed batteries, proper tabbed batteries anyways, not ones like this. Now, what else I'm going to do here, which you'll probably not need to do, but I'm going to do it just for my own, you know, put my own mind at rest. These batteries, I find, they're not really welded very well. I mean, you can see there's two there, but I've had plenty of these batteries where these tabs have just popped off, like without even much touching. You know, you touch them, without touching them very much, they just pop off. So what I'm going to do just for my own, just to put my mind at rest, is I'm going to weld those batteries a little bit more, just to make sure they're on there good and proper. Now I have a portable spot welder here to do this with, so chances are you won't have one of these, so don't worry about this. Just hope that your tabs don't come off, like mine do sometimes. So I'm just going to add some more welds to this, just to make sure it's secure. Like so. I'm going to do the same on the other side. Just do another one, just to be sure. There we go. So you can see now there's plenty welds on there. That's not going to come off anytime soon. But yeah, I'll just do that for my own peace of mind, just so I know that this battery isn't going to come off anytime soon. So connecting the battery up is straightforward. This is the positive side with this tab on it, this one here. And it obviously goes to the positive side there. You can see the little positive icon. Negative is this side. So you want to position the battery on like so. In fact, actually, I've just noticed these tabs are quite long, because this is meant for a smaller battery, so I'm going to cut these tabs down slightly, because they don't need to be so long. Okay, I'm just going to straighten that up a little bit more. Tab's bent a little bit there. Right, so you want to position it in place. Just do one side at a time. You don't have to do both sides. Actually, just for, in case anybody's wondering, if you're wondering what the power consumption is of this chip from this battery, I'll go ahead and show you right now, just to give you an idea of how long this battery will last. And the way I do that is I solder down one side of the battery. I believe it's the plus, yeah. So what I'll do is I'll solder the plus side down first. Turn it around like this. Solder. I'm going to solder this down like this. Now, that's not touching anything out of there, is it? Don't think so. Right. Now, I've soldered it like that because I want the positive to be connected, but I don't want the negative to be connected. I want to measure the power consumption of the battery. Now, I'm going to have to take it out a little bit more for this. The way to do this is you want to take your multimeter, you want to swap this over to your current measurement probe, this one here, and you want to put your multimeter in microamps, which is that one there. And then what you want to do is you're measuring your probes, you want to measure between the negative on the battery and the ground where the negative would go. So your current is not going straight to the negative terminal, it's going through your multimeter first and then to the negative terminal. So you put one probe on your negative terminal, your other probe on the negative pin of the battery, and you should get a reading on the multimeter. Now, as you can see, it's not showing anything. That is most likely because the power draw is so low that the multimeter can't even measure it, which is a good thing. You probably saw it flash to 0.1 for a second. That's how low the power consumption is of this SRAM chip, which is a good thing because it means that the battery is going to last a long, long time. So I'll just double check that, make sure I'm moving around. Yeah. Try it the other way. There you see. Now it's come up minus 0.1, that's just because I've swapped the probes around. But there's your power consumption right there, 0.1 microamps. Now, if you know how to do the math, you can work that out yourself, but that equals a lot of time basically. This battery is not going to run out, provided it's a good quality battery, which it probably isn't, but whatever. If that's a full CR2032, which is about 230, 240, milliamps of power, you're going to get a lot of time out of that battery basically. You can do the math if you want, but it'll probably work out to something ridiculous like 60 plus years of battery life. That battery will not run out before the battery itself deteriorates to a point where it doesn't work anymore. So that's probably another reason why they use a smaller battery, because a bigger battery like this just isn't necessary. Nintendo only really intended for these to be used for a few years, 10 years at the most maybe. So they had no reason to use a bigger size battery. That's probably the reason why they went with a smaller battery. But I'm using a bigger battery, so whatever. It is what it is. So let's go ahead and finish this up. But yeah, I mean, as you can see, the power consumption of these SRAM chips is so low that it doesn't warrant swapping it over to FRAM, because the battery's never going to run out realistically. Whoops, drop that battery there. Obviously though, like I said before, if you're using a real-time clock, an MBC3 card with a real-time clock, that puts a significant amount more drain on the battery. So you probably want to use FRAM with those cards. Just put this on the right way, that would help. Here's one side. Let me just double check that a second. Yeah, it looks good. And you want to solder down the other side. Like that. Give it a couple of seconds to cool down. I'm just going to quickly go over the plus terminal again. There we go, that looks better. Right, that is basically done. I'm just going to get rid of that there off the screen, close that down. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to flash this cart with a game, and I'm going to test it and make sure it works. And with a bit of luck, it will. Right, so I need a cart to put it in first. Give me a second. Take the screw out of that cart. Let's put this inside a shell. Like so. I'm not going to put the screw in yet, just in case it doesn't work, because it's always a possibility. some of this crap out of the way. Right, I'm going to quickly flash this cart and then we'll see if it works. Okay, so that is now flashed. We'll go ahead and test it. Make sure it works. Let's bring it out a little bit. Go ahead and test this, make sure it works. Alright. Might need to wiggle the cart a little bit. I might actually need to clean the pins. Yeah, looks like I'm going to need to clean the pins first, which is fine. There might be a little bit of flux on the pins. But if you get, like, you know, messed up Nintendo logo like that, then, you know, it's just going to be dirty pins. Just give them a bit of a clean and it should be good to go. Bit of IPA and a soft cloth. Give them a nice scrub like that. Yeah, there was a bit of dirt that came off there, so that's good. Put that back in the shell. My horrible mug on the screen there. There we go. That looks like it's working fine. Yeah, that looks fine to me. So that's all there is to it. If you want to give this a go, it's a really cool and, you know, somewhat simple way to make your own flash cartridge. The process is pretty much the same for MBC3 carts as well. Like I say, I'll put a link in the description where you can get everything you need to do this, and I'll also link the page that describes how the mod works, how to do it for various different types of cartridge, that sort of thing. So, yeah. Once again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.